as I pointed out in a previous review of their products, Gamdias has elected to base their naming convention off of notable characters from Greek mythology. I reviewed recently the Gamdias Zeus M1, for example. Well, today we are looking at the Demeter gaming mouse, a budget peripheral that's also known as the goddess of fertility. The Gamdias Demeter E1 is an entry-level optical gaming mouse. At roughly $15, it's the cheapest mouse the Taiwanese company currently produces. And if by the end of this review you decide to pick one up, please consider using our affiliate link to do so. It features a matte black body with silver accents and an illuminated logo at the rear. It is angular and aggressive, but it's not too outrageous, and its relatively small footprint makes it easy to transport, but frankly, if mobility is your primary concern, I'd recommend investing in a wireless mouse instead. It's very light at just 125 grams, and the entire upper shell of the product is just one continuous piece of soft touch plastic, including the left and right click buttons and the surface where you rest your palm. And on the sides of the device, there's this grippy, leathery-like material, but honestly, I like that soft touch material better. Its ambidextrous design is relatively uncommon in the gaming segment. It has 6 buttons, including a left and right click, forward and backward button, and these, instead of being together, are separated on either side of the mouse, again catering to the ambidextrous nature of the product. It also has a scroll click and DPI shift button. And that DPI shift has 4 stops, which allows you to select between 1200 and 3200 DPI. And the switches are rated at 3 million clicks a piece before you can expect them to start wearing out. It does not have RGB lighting, which is the first product in a while that I've reviewed that doesn't have RGB lighting, but honestly for $15, that's not something you should reasonably expect. It does have this soft Gamdias orange glow, which if you don't like, well, that's kind of too bad, because as far as I can tell, there's no way to shut off that light. Included with that $15 purchase is a gaming mousepad, which is a first for me. I've never bought a mouse before that came with its own mousepad. I was surprised to see that, especially on a product this far down on the budget end of the spectrum. It's got Gamdias branding on it, it tracks well, it's soft, it doesn't move around too much. Not really a lot to talk about, but still a nice inclusion. But now let's move on to the software, and the Hera software is what Gamdias uses with their products. If you want a full, complete breakdown of the software and all of its features, then go ahead and watch a previous review, the Zeus M1 that we did, where we break down the software for mice. And it looks like this mouse is supposed to be supported using the software. There's a picture of it, and it allows you to click on it. But when you do, it actually brings you to the product purchase page. I'm not entirely sure. If I do figure it out, I'll leave a comment. I'll pin it down below. In my experience, it's definitely a budget mouse, both good and bad. It's extremely affordable, but it feels relatively cheap. If you flip it over, you can see the mouse feet are just a standard plastic. They're not that Teflon material we're used to seeing on more mainstream peripherals. This translates to a higher drag coefficient, but I did not see any measurable hit to performance, but I'm not at that upper echelon that's going to notice something like that. And if your budget for a mouse is $15, chances are you're not going to notice either. I mentioned that it is relatively small. It's almost uncomfortably small. I like to completely grab my mouse all the way around, and this kind of forces me to use more of a claw grip instead of a palm grip. And for me, that's just not natural feeling, and my hand did start to hurt after a little while. So if you have smaller hands or you do like to use more of a claw grip, then it should work fine. But other than that, you may not like the way this mouse feels in the hand. Those side buttons, especially the one on the far side if you're right-handed, take a little bit of getting used to. It's at first hard to identify where they are, but after a few rounds, of a first-person shooter, you kind of parameterize where they are, and it's easy to figure out. But at first, they're a little tricky to find. The sensor feels precise and controlled. It didn't really cause any errors, but unfortunately, that 3200 DPI isn't high enough for my applications. But for most people, that should be fine. The buttons themselves are clicky and responsive, but that scroll click takes just a little bit too much force to actuate. You're just not prepared for how much pressure you have to press on it to actually get it to do what it's supposed to do. And also when you use the scroll wheel when you're scrolling up and down a web page, the individual notches that give you that sensory feedback don't always line up with the movement on screen, which is a little bit jarring, but kind of a minor detail. Multiple times throughout this review, I found myself having to recalibrate my expectations of the device, given its impressively low price tag. It almost seems gratuitous to complain about the quality of a device that costs less than I spent on lunch yesterday. If you can afford it, I would recommend stepping up to something a little bit more ergonomic and also more user-friendly, but if $15 is your max budget or you have particularly small hands, then the Gamdias Demeter E1 might serve you well. Well, thanks for watching, guys. If you found this review helpful and or insightful, then don't forget to give it a like and subscribe so you know when our newest content is ready to watch. Check the video description for links to where to buy the products that we mentioned in this video, and down in that description as well, you will find links to our giveaways that we run almost every month, so constantly check that out in our videos for your chance to win some of the free stuff that we feature on this channel. And if this mouse didn't cut it for you, not something you're interested in, that's perfectly fine. Check out some of these other reviews by other vendors that we've done recently, gaming mice, production mice. We've done lots of mouse reviews, lots of keyboard reviews, so make sure you check those out if you want more of a variety in your next mouse purchase. Well, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll catch you in the next one.